Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 2 of my Operation Sports NBA2K expansion, MyGM. It's a really long title. Hopefully, it gets all the information out of what we're going to try to do with this vlog each episode. So, last week, or I should say last episode, we looked at a few things, just kind of the general concept of this vlog. We looked at how it wants to focus on design, and we talked a little bit about the Grackles team that I created, and even the custom team that I downloaded from 2K Share, and a few other things too, as well as the approach for this vlog, how it won't just be all gameplay and things like that. And so, yeah, really appreciate you taking a look at episode 1 there. I've gotten some good feedback on that one, and I appreciate the comments and the questions that have come in. So, by the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's MikeLow_OS for Operation Sports. So MikeLow_OS. YouTube channel if you want to subscribe to that as well. That's where I'm getting most of the questions and comments coming in. So let's see. This episode, what we're going to be focusing on are a few things. First, I want to take a look around the league. I also want to show you the expansion draft because the last time we spoke, that had not been concluded, and of course it has, as well as about the first month and a half of the season. So we'll kind of take a look at that. We're starting to get some storylines unfolding, and let's take a look around the league. Before we do that, though, real quick, I've had a few people actually ask me, what the heck is a grackle? And a grackle is a very common bird here found in Austin, Texas, and it's I thought it was a really fitting nickname for the team because I think it represents the city of Austin in a few ways. If you just kind of look up general information on a grackle, which is exactly what I did, I found out that it's a bird that has a very vibrant personality. And so, one of Austin's slogans is, keep Austin weird. And there's a lot of personality in the city. And so having a bird such as that, I thought it was a good fit. It's also a bird that is known to sing a lot and kind of sing a lot of different versions of songs, if you could say. I don't know the exact bird terminology here, but a lot of birds will kind of have the same song they sing over and over, whereas a grackle, it varies very frequently. And so with Austin being such a music-heavy city, I thought that was a really cool choice. And plus, I just liked how the logo that I found looked with it all. So anyway, get that out of the way because I do want to talk about design a lot. It's kind of the primary focus of this is going to be design, and I think we're actually going to do a little bit of gameplay because my very next game on the schedule are the actual 2 expansion teams that we put into this particular mode. First and foremost, let's look at the roster, right? This is the expansion draft roster plus 1 free agent that I went in and signed. We'll just go position by position. We'll start with Dellavedova. We ended up getting, he has a big contract, Matthew Dellavedova, but I really liked him. I liked his makeup. Unfortunately, he has been hurt. And we'll look at some stats here in a little bit, but just going through the picks. So Dellavedova was the guy we grabbed. Ty Lawson, also hurt, was our backup point guard that we ended up drafting as well in the expansion draft. Again, I like kind of that traditional, pass first point guard who can play some defense. And so 2 guys there that I think can fit that mold, especially Lawson actually off the bench. The last pick in the expansion draft was actually Isaiah Whitehead, who was a 2nd-round pick in the 2016 draft. And he's actually been a nice little player filling in for a couple of the injuries we've had. Our 1 free agent signing was a point guard as well, Norris Cole, just to give us some depth. When Dellavedova went down, we were surviving with just the 2. Lawson went down, we had to do something there. And so we picked up Norris Cole, who's been a nice player for us as well. Of course, with an expansion draft, we're not going to have top-tier players on this team. And so when I'm saying, it's filled in well, I mean, the fact that we're 10-12, you can see on the bottom there, I think is a pretty good start for an expansion team. So nonetheless, let's move on to the shooting guards. The very first pick in the entire expansion draft was actually made by the Cincinnati Mallards, but the 2nd overall pick we had, of course, and that was Norman Powell, who we took from the Toronto Raptors, and he's been really good. I've been really happy with him. He's averaging about 20 points a game so far, and he can really shoot from anywhere on the floor, and so he's been a nice player. To kind of complement him off the bench, we later draft Marcus Thornton, who also is a guy who can kind of score from anywhere, and we actually have him as our third scoring option on this team, coming off of the bench. But of course, he's hurt as well, so we've had a lot of injuries here on the default injury sliders, as I mentioned in the first episode. Not messing with that stuff here. And Thornton also hurt, but he's been a nice player, very nice player. Cephalosha is a guy we wanted to get to play some defense. I wanted to get Tony Allen really bad in the expansion draft, and he went number 1 overall before I got the pick. And so I wanted to get somebody who could shut down our opposition's shooting guard or small forward. And so, well, Allen was my first choice. Cephalosha is another guy who has a similar makeup who can do that. He's been kind of an underachiever so far for us. I haven't really been too thrilled. His contract is up for renewal potentially, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Reggie Bullock, we also got. He's kind of our primary 3-point shooter, as you can see there on the screen. Got him from the Pistons towards the end of the draft. But Reggie's been a nice player too, who can kind of be the offensive small forward on the team while Cephalosha focuses on defense. Taj Gibson as the first power forward we took, and he's been starting for us. And I really like Taj Gibson. There's actually one of the segments I want to do on this show, or this episode, is going to talk a little bit about Taj Gibson and a decision we have to make with him here coming up. But Taj Gibson's been a really nice player. He's really our number 2 option behind Norman Powell as far as running the offense through. So we then got David Lee, who's kind of like a carbon copy in a way of Taj Gibson. They play a very similar game, and I like that kind of power forward. So I've liked having David Lee's flexibility to play the 4 and the 5, as Gibson does, but he's been primarily starting. He has started every single game so far, all 22 games. At center, Andrew Bogut, who we took as a pick, very similar to how we wanted to take Tony Allen, where I do think he has a role. I like him as a player. I think he's a good center, but probably someone we will look to trade as he has an expiring contract. And I think we can get a decent return for him on a team who might be, doing some things that we're not expecting to do by season's end. So Andrew Bogut. And we also took Roy Hibbert in the draft, who is our off-the-bench center, who's been a nice player as well. And again, Bogut and Hibbert, similar makeups. They are similar players. I like those centers who can play some inside defense and can rebound, and both of these guys can, as you look here. They have similar makeups. They can score a little bit on the inside. So just as I mentioned, Gibson and Lee are kind of copies of each other in a way. We see the same thing with Bogut and Hibbert, I should say. And then the last 3 picks we made in this draft, actually I just showed you one of them, so really the last 2 picks were a couple of just, project centers. We took Steven Zimmerman, and he was also a 2nd-round pick in the 2016 draft, I believe, by the Magic. And then we also took, I'm going to butcher his name, is it Shaikh Diallo, maybe? That's how I would phonetically pronounce that, so we'll call him Shaikh Diallo. I'm sure I'll be corrected. Both project guys, both guys who had some decent potential, at least when you look at the expansion draft. And so we'll see. These guys have had limited playing time. Zimmerman gets in once in a while. It seems like the couple of games I've played out of those 22, he's gotten in off the bench. One of them was we were getting just completely blown out. But he has made at least, kind of some 3-minute appearance here and there. So that was the expansion draft for us. Like I said, the only addition was Norris Cole that we made. And if we look at the Cincinnati Mallards, who had the first pick in the draft, they did get Tony Allen, but he has been hurt the entire year. I don't think he has played a single game. Oh, he has. He's played 5 games. So he's played a little bit, but he went down with an injury pretty quickly there. So looking at their team through the positions, TJ McConnell, point guard. Tyus Jones, shooting guard Tony Allen. Is it Alan Craby? Rodney Stuckey. Small forward Joe Johnson, PJ Tucker, Richard Jefferson. Amir Johnson at power forward. Is it Hernan Gomez? Juan Hernan Gomez. Nene. Pachulia. And Spades. So that kind of gives you a look there. So again, they have a nice deep roster. They do have a little bit more age than we do. If we just kind of sort by age, they got 4 guys who are at least 34 or older. Yeah, similar. I think we have a couple. Oh, we have none. So we went a little bit younger. I tried so hard to meet that owner goal of keeping the roster 25 or below, and I think our average was like 26.1 or something. So grabbing these guys kind of towards the end, I tried to bring that age down, but it was tough. And actually, 26.1 might be a little too high, or it's a little too low, I should say. It might have been a little bit higher than that. So anyway, that was the expansion team. If we look through the schedule, right, here's what we've had. I also failed the goal of, which I never got penalized for. I haven't seen that actually pop up as a penalty, but losing our first game of the year by 20 points. We got absolutely smashed. I think that was not a game I played. But then we went on the win, and because we've had a few losing streaks. Here's a 4-game losing streak. Won a couple in a row. Lost by 1 point to the Cavaliers. Won a couple more in a row. Here we lose again, 4 in a row. Then we get a nice little stretch here. We win 3 in a row. And then we lose a couple, we win a couple, right? So it brings us up to December 7th at a 10-12 record to face the Mallards, who are 11-9. So they have a winning record, right? So good for them. They're doing a nice job so far. The 2 games I played the 76er game, and I got smashed. I actually, thanks to Millennium at Operation Sports, I was chatting with him in our Operation Sports chat about, like, man, these sliders they're just destroying me. Like, I can't stop anybody. And I was using default Superstar. And the one tweak I did make, just to be transparent, is on his suggestion, I changed the just the Superstar settings. Oops, what am I doing? The Superstar sliders, I should say. When you set it on Superstar, you'll see that some of these are lowered for the user, and all I did is just match them up. So if you look in the top left, I'm switching between computer and user. These are just all the same. And what I did is I matched the user to the CPU, not the other way around. So as I went through these are just all equal, and I won't bore you. You just have to trust me on that. So, and it's been a lot better. So props to Millennium for that feedback. That's been really helpful. The last game I played was this one here, and so it was a closer game. Still lost by about 8 points, but you can see it's kind of cool because you wouldn't be able to pick out which game I played out of these scores, right? If you were to look at these, I mean, it blends right in with them. So we've had other 8-point losses and things like that. Now this one, maybe you could pick it out. I mean, we just got smashed, but look at the next night they gave up 128 points in a simulated game again. So maybe it's not too far off base. Keep in mind, I am pretty average at this game on a good day. So Superstar is definitely going to humble me, but it was nice to kind of hang around on the road against the Mavericks like we did there. So we want to get into design. Before we do that, let's just take a quick look around the league at what's going on. Nothing really huge in regards to transactions, right? This is kind of going from most recent to, the first transactions you scroll down. But you can see it's just nothing. There's been no trades, no coach firings, nothing like that. It's just teams kind of filling out their roster like we did. We currently just have 13 guys on our roster. I didn't want to fill it out just for this reason, and I'm glad I didn't because we were able to sign Norris Cole without having to release anyone and have any kind of financial penalties. So those are all the transactions we've seen so far. I'm not going to bore you with the social media because it's kind of overwhelming in this game. I mentioned in the first episode that we might just do some kind of constructive criticism, and this is one of my Madden criticisms too. Is this the way they kind of stream their information is it's very cumbersome. You can see I have over 1,300 new messages because I just don't really look at this. These are the areas that I'd like to see these games start to develop this into kind of that fictitious TV show that we see in some of these games. And I'm not talking like the 2K TV or whatever it's called, which is really cool. But I mean, like inside of that, like kind of like the highlight show. So we used to see this actually in the college basketball game that 2K made, right? They'd have like their Sunday show where they'd show highlights, and I think we should see that. And maybe the NBA, maybe they do a weekday show and a weekend show or something like that would be really cool. We also saw this in 2K's football game, of course, which we can debate ad nauseum. which we're not going to do on this one. But so I think it'd be kind of cool to see 2K revitalize that and replace some of these because, frankly, these are just they're kind of boring. I'll look at the rumor ones, but really all it is just because I have Andrew Bogut on the trade block since day one, and those aren't rumors for me. I know what's going on with that, right? So you see the transactions, which are much easier to see on the screen we looked at before this. Game results are nice, but again, I don't want to read through all this, right? I mean, it's just, and like we have two for each team. Like, why? It's cumbersome, and I don't want to get into it, but the constructive criticism is, I think it'd be cool if they could streamline that more into sort of a video with highlights, where we're just seeing, maybe the top five, and then they can show us a really quick box score of each game, that kind of thing. Of course, you get the injuries here, which I know they're representing kind of the real life NBA injury report, but I just have trouble reading through because again, here we have Gary Harris hurt, three different things for him. Three different things for him. Three different things for him. It's cumbersome. The scouting's nice. I will look at these, but really I like looking at these on the player profile itself, right? You can actually just click on this draftee and I can see them all right here on the social media. So that's where I look at that. So I do like that those are there. Anyway, point being, I'm not going to spend too much time looking at that social media thread. If we look at injuries around the league so far, there's been some injuries for sure, right? I'll just kind of scroll through this while I take a sip of my water here. So again, you see some big names with some injuries. Oops, and if we look at our team, here's the three, all guards. Goodness, we gotta get some guys back here in the next few weeks. We should. Almost tempted just to kind of simulate up to that so I can play with the full roster. See if the Mallards have any injuries. Oh yeah, just right, just Tony Allen. So a little healthier than us, better record than us, making me look bad. So let's see. If we look at the goals and promises so far, getting the team into the playoffs by the year 2021, I think we can do that. His wish list wants us to be profitable. So far, last I checked, actually, we are. We're slightly profitable, which is nice. Hiring a scout, something we'll look to do in the next few years. So far, so good. His view of me is a 62, so not terrible or anything, not great. I think we actually saw this probably on the previous episode, but here's a little bit more detail. You can see everything is kind of trending down for me, which is not great. But team image is important to him. We're keeping that up, so that's good. But hopefully one day I can just buy the team off Kendrick Price here, and I won't need to worry about it. So I'm up to a level 6. You can see there again, starting from level 1 all over, starting fresh. And just a few badges unlocked so far. So, and yeah, you guys probably don't care about the upgrades I did. Nothing major. It's all level 1 stuff at this point. So let's see. Like I said, there's been no trades, nothing like that on the trade block. The only thing I have is, again, Bogut up there, and he got pissed at me for doing that, so he'll have to deal with it. We've had a few talks, a few meetings with some different players, which I really like. I love that MyGM is doing that sort of thing. It's just a really, really cool thing to have those interactions, whether you're negotiating a contract with someone or they're just raising concerns about their playing time. It's just really fun, and that's why I really think this MyGM mode is really special. As far as franchise modes go, I would love to see something like this in Madden, right? And Madden has some interaction. They definitely do. I should say this, not that they don't, but I guess just you really know your role when you're doing the MyGM. I just think that's really cool. Oh, let's see. Nothing we need to look at there. I did load in and I can tell you which one because I don't want any spoilers as far as the draft. And again, it's in basketball. I mean, honestly, there's probably no easier sport to scout than basketball as far as kind of hits and misses, but they do happen. But nonetheless, trying to avoid having any spoilers here. So as you look at this list, I'm not going to tell you which one I imported, but it was from the 2K share. And currently you can see the top players that will be available. And you'd think with an expansion team we'd have a pretty high pick, but geez, at this rate, I honestly think we're qualifying for a playoff spot, or right there, like right around the 8 seed. So, again, if I'm looking at this, just the players I've kind of thrown on our list so far, and this was actually a couple weeks before this in the season, so this may not be completely accurate, but we definitely need a small forward. We're going to need something for next year, but I'm also really, really keen on those point guards that are at the top of the board. So Dennis Smith has made a push more recently out of NC State. So you can see it's pretty point guard heavy. We don't see any centers here till later on. There's like one, Marquise Bolden of Duke. So Jarrett Allen here locally. You could bring in the local player out of Texas. That'd be kind of cool. Anybody else from Texas? I think there's another guy, right? Yeah, Terrence Ferguson. So, be kind of cool. We don't have any rivals yet. This is something I'm curious to keep an eye on. When I was at the 2K event, kind of the unveiling of the 2K game this year, they talked about when they did expansion, when they sat around and decided that we're going to try to do expansion this year. It was brought to the table and they said we will do it, but one of their promises that they make to themselves before they implement anything in a game is that they want it to be done fully and they want it to be done accurately. No shortcuts. They don't want anything to be missing. So when they looked at the expansion mode, they said, hey, we want to do this, but it can't be half. You know what? It needs to be fully fleshed out. So in the start here, I don't have any rivals, and that's understandable. That's completely fine. I haven't played any playoff series or anything like that. So I'm curious to see how this will start to kind of play itself through. I can't even get back to the team there. How it starts to play itself out as we go through this. So if you look at another team, San Antonio, you can see, it kind of shows you the all-time record. So it is accumulating, right? We're starting to see these sort of things, but everyone's still kind of orange. And we'll see if some of those start to turn red. You'd think like Houston and Dallas would start to do it. Certainly San Antonio would start to do that sort of thing. So if we look at the Mallards, that's right. We haven't played them, so we can't see. I keep thinking this changes the actual team itself, but it does not. So anyway, but I trust 2K. I think it's gonna work just fine. I'd be willing to bet. Training, I'm just leaving up to the AI at this point. I'm not too worried about it. Just like a lot of the pricing and stuff like that. With pricing being you're only limited to certain changes, I'm not really worried too much about making changes just yet. I am looking at the team finance screen. As you can see there, our projected profit loss on the left. We are projected to make some money, and so that's good. Now, granted, some of that might be because we haven't allocated all of our funds, but nonetheless, we are staying in the black, so that's really what matters the most. So keep an eye on that. Of course, jersey sales, we're not going to probably see anything from our team or the Mallards. Not yet, at least, so we'll see if any big-name rookies come in. Looking at the conference standings, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can see we are right there. We're kind of in a deadlock with the Lakers for that 8 seed. So interesting to see if we can keep that up. If we look at the Eastern Conference, Cleveland 20-1 start to the season. Keep in mind we lost to them by 1 point in a simulation. That's pretty cool. And the Mallards right now are the 6th seed, so not bad. Not bad at all for them. GM Power Rankings. I mean, I'm such a shrewd GM signing Norris Cole. My one transaction has put me up to 15th overall, but I'm sure that goes off of again, like kind of team performance and like it says here, the trend. Interesting that we're ahead of Cincinnati. I guess maybe because I've done a transaction, maybe that counts for something. So there's that. Statistics. If we look at our players, right, points per game, as I mentioned, Powell's been right around 20 points per game. Gibson at 14, Thornton off the bench 12.5, and then Hibbert off the bench. So we have a lot of depth. That's why I like to build these teams. I like depth. I want to be able to score with whomever is on the floor. So let's see. just going to go through these. I'll let the stats speak for themselves. I'll shut up for a minute. If you want to pause the video, you're more than welcome to look at our leaders here. So as you can see, can't tell a whole lot after 22 games, but you can tell some things. And I'm actually pretty happy with the team. We'll look at the advanced metrics on another episode of this. Right now, just give you a quick look. I may just kind of go by position here. So if you want to just scroll through, you can see. But for now, 22 games isn't a huge sample size. Like I said, Whitehead in his limited time has been really, really good. It's been fun to watch him. Gibson and Powell have been good players. Zimmerman, very limited time. So again, depth. If there's one thing this team does have, it is depth, which is nice to see. Our 3 rookies, 2 second-round picks, and then undrafted Diallo. Team stats, kind of see where we're falling. We are not scoring much, right? So that's why we need to get somebody who, Norman Powell should not be your kind of go-to primary scorer, right? So, and he is on this team, so that's how it goes. See, the Mallards aren't much better. Points against per team, and again, I've really tried to build this team around defense, and so it's been working. That's nice to see. We are definitely, even with my awful first game I played where I gave up 128 points, that's been really nice. But again, here the differential is what's hurting us. Is we need people who can score. Field goal attempts I find as a very simple yet interesting stat. We are not shooting the ball a lot. So is it turnovers? Is it just not getting good looks or whatever it is? We're just that's pretty low, right? We're not giving ourselves opportunities enough. So, and apparently when we are shooting, we're not making very many shots. We must be falling in the average for 3-pointers because I don't see us there. Yeah, for attempts, we're neither at the bottom nor at the top. That's okay, I guess. Free throws made. See, we're not getting to the line. We're just not scoring. We don't have a threat. It'd be nice to have 2 threats, right? We have some nice players in Powell and Gibson who are leading our scoring, but we don't have a threat, and I didn't expect to have one, right? But again, towards the bottom as far as free throws. So, rebounding, not grabbing a ton of rebounds. Getting a lot of offensive rebounds, but again, we're also missing a lot, so that can be a little misleading. Middle, as far as overall rebounds go, very low in assists per game. League average or so for steals. Blocks, pretty low. Turnovers per game, low. So our issue isn't turnovers. Second chance points, again, we miss a lot. So anyway, let's look at our bench. Bench towards the top. Again, a team of depth, you'd expect to see that. Top 5. So anyway, some stats there. So there's a look around the league. Again, we're 22 games in. We are sort of the beginning of December still. But really the big focus I have for this, and believe it or not, it took us this long to get to this point, but I want to talk about design. And in specifics, I want to talk about when you do an expansion team and whether you use that in Pro-Am or you use your custom team in a mode like this, whether it's MyGM or MyLeague. It's just what a cool thing that the 2K team has given us this year with the details. Now, even though I've already started this, and really I'm going into kind of the team relocation screen, in MyLeague you can just jump right in and edit, right? Don't be afraid of this MyGM team relocation screen though, because I'm not relocating. I'm just going to update. So you can see I've already gone in and looked at this and tweaked some things because it says complete. Really, as long as you don't hit this submit proposal thing, you're going to be fine. It's not going to matter. And so you can still go in, you can do all of your team branding, you can go in and design your arena still, and see when you load it in, it's nice, it's already there. You don't have to go in and like redo anything. You don't have to start from a blank slate. So that's really nice. Same thing with the uniform. So, but what I wanted to look at was, because creating a uniform, that's nothing new. You've all probably played around with that, but creating a completely customizable uniform is a little bit different. So, the very first thing, again, I won't bore you with all these because you've already gone through jersey stripes and short stripes and all that. Really, the customization comes here in this image section. So you can see as I hover over each of these different layers, you can see the different pieces that I've made for these jerseys. Now, with that said, I do all this work in Photoshop. So this isn't, you can't do really everything inside the game. And there's plenty of free things you can get within the 2K share, whether it's from the community or 2K themselves have given us a lot to work with. But the point being is, if you really want to get some customization, like for instance that font where Grackles is, that's kind of like a Texas font. That's actually in the game, by the way, which I'll explain in a second. But you have to familiarize yourself with some sort of, photo editing of some sort. So anyway, as I scroll through these, you can see the different layers, right? This one is the Capitol building on his top left shoulder. This is, I don't know, is that the NBA logo on the back, maybe? I don't remember. I think it's there's the NBA logo. You can see that blinking. I don't know what this one is. It must be one of those Adidas logos. And that's probably the other Adidas logo. That's the logo on the shorts. That's the A, that's the T, that's the X, which is the abbreviation, one of the abbreviations for Austin. And this is, I don't know. So anyway, I'm not sure, that one's not really highlighting that well, but so here's where you can go, right? Of course, you can add in standard text, but really what it comes down to are the logos you can add in. Now, again, it starts with the community uploads, and these are filtered by the most popular. So a lot of people are putting the NBA logo on their jersey. And these aren't always like the team logos. You're wondering like, why is people using Nike as their team logo? They're not. They're using it as a piece of their jersey. And I did the exact same thing because, whoops, I actually used the Adidas ones that are on page 2, right? This humongous Adidas logo, when I load it in here, it looks ridiculous, right? But all I did is just move it around and resize it and that sort of thing and put it up in the corner there as a different layer. And so that's why, sometimes you're wondering like, all these teams with like Nike or just the NBA logo, that seems kind of silly. Well, I guess it would be if that was just their logo, but of course they're using it just as pieces. And so you have all these different community uploads, which are nice for the most part. And you can really do a lot of cool things. But really, most importantly, because you could go through this forever, and really the filtering is not great. You can pretty much filter by latest or most popular. Unfortunately, you can't search by anything but user. So if you know a user, if you have a friend or something like that, you can search for their material, even mine, right? You can search for Mike Lowe 47. But if you wanted to search for like, Jordan logo or something like that, you can't. And so that's kind of a bummer. I would like to see that because it'd be really easy for people to label these. If they label them properly, it'd pull up. So instead, what I encourage you to do is really just get familiar with, it doesn't have to be Photoshop. Photoshop's got a pretty steep learning curve. But I will say YouTube is your friend for that sort of thing because you can learn anything you want to do in Photoshop. So these are just some pieces that I put together for the Austin Grackle. Some of them I'm using, most of them I'm using, some of them I'm not. This is the actual banner that I'm using on the front of the jersey. I'm not using this one. I thought it might look better. Actually, I'm sorry, I am using that on the away jersey. So here's the home jersey. That's the away jersey. This is what's on the back of the shorts, the ATX. I just loaded them in as separate pieces. This is I don't think I've used the outlined one. I outlined it in our blue or our teal. But this is the Austin Capitol building that I just cut out in Photoshop. It's kind of like a vector image of that. And these are just some different ones I tried using. Like I tried putting them on the floor in the arena, and it didn't look that great. And like I tried doing something cool with the ATX in the Capitol building that looks stupid, so I didn't end up using that. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, and these are some different logos. Another kind of cool logo I was messing around with, the Vancouver Moose, which I didn't use. Also off that same website actually, where I found this Grackles one, which I forget it was the North Shore Seahawks was the original name of this logo, and I just changed it to the Austin Grackles. So anyway, and of course there's presets that 2K gives you, and there's the NBA historically, and there the logos, or say the primary logos, and all of that. So different things you can do, but I like using the custom ones. I think it's a lot of fun, and it really makes it fun when you're playing a game. It's like, oh, cool, like that's the jersey I put together. And so you can see the Austin logo there, transparent background. So nothing fancy. The reason I really got into the Photoshop for this logo is because I wanted to use that font. The reason I wanted to use that font is kind of one of my pet peeves in this mode is that that's not even in the mode, I should say. It's just they don't have a huge selection of fonts. They do for the jerseys, right? They have like over 100, but for the arenas, they don't. So you could spend, and almost everyone starts making their jersey first, right? So if you make this awesome looking jersey and you love this font you picked out, and then you finally get to the part where you're like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go in and oops, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna finally make this really cool arena. I'm so pumped, and I'm gonna grab that same font here. But when you go into it, you don't have that many. There's like maybe 20 or 30 or something like that. So I was kind of bummed. And so I did it the opposite. I looked and I'm like, okay, what font would I want to use for Austin? You know, what's kind of a Texas-y looking font? I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's kind of like what the Texas Rangers use. So I saw that, and sure enough, Sand Creek is an actual font, and I ended up downloading it. I installed it on my computer, and I was able to load it in Photoshop. So when I had that, I was able to go back here and in Photoshop go through and add in the different text layers I wanted to use and that sort of thing, so that when I went back into the game, I could apply them here. So there you can see that Grackles is exactly the same font as what's on the arena floor. And you just simply could not do that in this game if you didn't do it yourself, or got really lucky and maybe found what you're looking for on 2K Share. So and again, you don't have to do it that way. I mean, last year I didn't get this crazy with the teams I was creating and kind of playing around with, but now that we have this expansion mode, it's just such a cool thing to do. And I really think it's, I mean, hell, my fiance teases me because she's like, is that basketball game? I'm like, yeah, yeah. She's like, do you ever play the game? It's like, not really. I ended up spending all my time, I'm a designer by trade. I'm an instructional designer at my job. And so while I don't design basketball uniforms and things like that, I do very, very similar things at my work, and I've always enjoyed that. So she kind of teases me for like hardly actually playing basketball. I probably spend like 75% of my time looking at menus because I do a lot of like menu work, for instance, at my job. So I'll look at like, oh, this is a really cool layout. I really like how they've done this scroll, or like I really like this menu, to be honest. And when you look at a game like Madden, and how nearly unmanageable that game is to navigate. It's really nice to see how clean and just the motion that's taking place on each of these tabs and things like that. So anyway, really just a shout out to 2K's team, their design team. It's just done a really, really beautiful job with this game. I remember the first time I turned this game on and saw this menu, I was just like, oh, it's so clean. It looks so nice. It's just the simple grays, and it's really cool. So anyway, there's some basics on some of that design. I don't really think there's much here to show you. see. Yeah, it's just the same images I had there. But if you look at the arena, again, there's some really cool things you can do with the arena as well. I didn't get too crazy with it. I tried to keep mine, kind of something you see in the NBA. The Whole Food Center I did not make. I did get that off 2K Share, but it's perfect because I guess the flagship store for Whole Foods is like right down the street from me here in Austin. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's perfect because I didn't want to spend too much time fiddling with that. But yeah, I don't know. Just this game, they did a really nice job with the design stuff, and for me at least, I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So hopefully you learned a thing or two with this episode. I did say we might do some gameplay, but I think I'm actually going to wait on that for now until the next stream. For now, I want to just kind of end it with the design and also a question because I always want to do the community involvement here. And my big decision I'm dealing with now as a GM, and again, it's early, right? Our team's actually doing pretty well. 10 and 12, we're technically qualified for a playoff spot. But as I look here, where am I going here? Front office, there it is. Contracts expiring, right? Now these guys are ineligible. They just had 1-year contracts that they signed. They're gonna walk. At best, I could try to sign them in free agency. And really, Thornton's probably the only one I'm really interested in bringing back as a bench player. I do like Lawson, so we'll see. Maybe these two. North School's been good, but I won't need both these guys, so we'll see. Cephalosha, I'm not planning to resign. We had a brief talk. He actually is willing to come back for pretty cheap, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'd be nice to have maybe a defensive player off the bench. I definitely don't want him starting like he's been with us. Reggie Bullock's undecided. I do like him. Bogut, undecided, but we'll probably end up moving him because of his age. And he's a big guy, right? He's a big man. And with his age and his back, he's just not a guy. I want to move this guy before he gets hurt, before he turns 33, 34, that sort of thing. Nice player. But boy, it's kind of like selling stock, right? You got to know when to cash out. I think it's time to sell Bogut. Hibbert isn't eligible, like the guards. But my decision, and this is where I need your help with, and I appreciate any feedback. Taj Gibson, he's been pretty good player. Let's take a look at him a little bit closer. First, his ambitions. He wants to play for a winner. Not really. Doesn't really care. He doesn't really have huge passions. He's loyal, and that's nice. He's thinking about testing his free agents or his value in the free agent market. It says, okay. So here he is, right? Let's just look at, even compared to just last year with the Bulls, right? So his minutes are about the same. Look at this though, 14 points per game versus 8. His rebounds same. His assists have dropped down. He's shooting the ball more. We've made him a primary option, so that could be why you're seeing that. Steals are about the same. Blocks are the same. So again, by the way, credit to the simulation engine for this game. Are you kidding me? Look at this. Folks, these are real stats. Except for this one, right? Look at how close these are. And keep in mind, this is only 22 games, so you're going to see some that can be skewed out. But look at this. You could not tell which of these years I simulated. You could not tell. That's incredible. Sport games, take note. This is what a simulation engine looks like when it works. Anyway, Taj Gibson. I like Taj Gibson. He's been really good. My concerns are he's 31. He's not huge, right? He's not but he's a big man. As we look at kind of his grades here, he's a guy who can score. He's a guy who can hit a jumper. Really nice defender. Really nice rebounder. He's a nice guy to have, right? And so now, do I want him starting next year? I don't know. Maybe. He's been okay this year. He fits in well with our guards. He fits in well with our crappy shooting as a putback king. He's a nice defender. He's expressive too. That's a concern. If you're losing a lot of games here, which we very well could be still this year, gotta be careful with these expressive players, right? Especially if you want him to be on the bench next year, like I just talked about. So we could have some turmoil brewing. Um, I can go over. I have plenty of money. I mean, this team's gonna have plenty of money to sign really whoever we want. So with his bird years, it's not gonna be a problem if we need to go over the cap. We're not gonna come anywhere near that. We can outbid any team for him. Um, but what kind of money is he gonna want? And what do we want to bring him back at? I think are the questions. And again, considering his age, considering sort of his personality, he's been great so far, but he's kind of getting everything he wants, right? He's got his career high in scoring this year. So I mean, he's really having a career year so far. If you look at his games, right? He's not playing huge minutes, but you can see he's been consistently scoring. There's his 30 game, 22. So 23. In the game I played, he had a whopping 14. And then in the other game I played, he had 12. So I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are. I forget. I do believe I've talked to him at least once about it. And see, now he's back to undecided because he was open. And I think I just kind of walked away from the table because it wasn't a bad offer. I don't remember what it was. I don't want to misquote it, but I was fine signing him to it. It wasn't as low as Cephalosha, who's willing to take like $1 million, maybe like 1.2. So anyway, some food for thought there. If he comes back and wants to talk, do we talk to him? Do we sign him? What do we do with Taj Gibson? So that's going to do it for episode 2. Episode 3, be looking for that. With the holidays coming up, I can't tell you exactly. I have some family coming in on Saturday here for the holidays to check out Austin as we just moved. So um, I'll let you know. But I'll try to get these in for sure over the break. But I just don't know exactly when yet. So as always, folks, thanks for watching. I appreciate Operation Sports putting these up. And you can follow me on Twitter. It's MikeLow_OS on Twitter. Pretty much always talking sport games. That is an alias for me, so that is not like my real Twitter or anything like that. But it's just I talk sport games only on that sort of thing for the most part, almost 99% of the time. The YouTube channel is also up there. I think if you just search for like Mike Low, you're gonna find that. But that's linked on my Twitter as well. And of course, I'm always on Operation Sports too. So I'll see you all around, and thanks so much for watching. I appreciate all the feedback, and yeah, let me know what you think about Taj Gibson, and let me know what you think about the expansion draft, maybe some designs that you have. I would love to see your designs. If they're not up on 2K, send them me on Twitter. I'd love to see those. I just think this is such a cool thing. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and we will talk soon. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that fun stuff.